Morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, March 30th, and this is Morning Market Movers, where we look at live analysis for day trading and hotspots in the markets for today. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me, Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. What are we looking at today? And we do have markets moving. We had some interesting things that we discussed yesterday. We had some significant market movement with uh, peace talks coming out of the Ukrainian-Russian situation, the Ukrainian-Russian war. Well, now reality setting in. They're just talks. We'll see where it goes. But oil yesterday made a fairly significant move down. It has completely retraced that move. It is right back where it was. We'll take a peek at that and take a look at other interesting levels in oil. Equities. We were up yesterday. We kept on saying, hey, be aware. We're looking for retracements. Well, we're starting to see that retracement today. Equities down. So we're unwinding the move from yesterday, where oil went down and now is back up. Equities went up, they're now back down. And if we have time, we might even punch over and take a look at the yen, because we have other headline news. We did have the U.S. quarterly GDP number come out. It came out in line. We did have the ADP employment numbers. Those also came out in line. That's the private sector. So those not really moving the market as much, but tomorrow morning we will have the PCE number before we go on. That personal consumption expenditure number, that's the inflation number. That could really move the market, so be aware of that. I will drop a link in where you can track and follow. I'll drop a couple of links in. And then Friday, we all still have that non-farm payroll and the unemployment rate, so we'll get the official government numbers after we just got the industry numbers today. Before I jump into it and before we go through the charts, let's take a look at this disclaimer. I forgot we had to do this. I remember there was something. This session and all of our sessions sponsored by our compliance department. The trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone. That any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. And just a very quick peek, and then I'm going to flip it over to Brian so we can get into it. But you can see that this was that big spike down in oil. Hey, look at this. The war's over. Oil drops from just above 107 all the way down. It got down below 99. I mean, that's a big move, and it is right back where we started. So we were talking about that yesterday. We're going to look at the equities as well today. So Brian, let me flip it over to you, and we could just quickly do some headlines, and let's get into the charts.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the currency front goes, pretty much everything is flat minus the yen. We're still seeing the same trend that we saw in the yen from yesterday, with the yen strength coming back in. And it's really, really funny how one single headline from a central bank can really change I don't want to say the fortunes, but everybody was like, oh my God, the yen is weak, the yen is weak, the yen is weak. It got up to 123 or whatever. And that central bank said it's not a problem till 130, and we can just raise interest rates and it fixes the whole problem. And everyone's like, oh, it's not a bad thing. Okay, we didn't know what we were talking about. And then you're just seeing it retrace back again. But besides that, everything else is really kind of flat. Euro dollar 10, pound yen 9, euro pound -2. So nothing is really moving in here. The Swiss obviously heating up a little bit again. It's down. The dollar Swiss is down 154. And again, as we talked yesterday, yesterday everybody was all happy about it, but there was really nothing was signed. It was like, oh, we can go to the next stage, right? And there has been some comments where the Kremlin mentioned up here that there's nothing. It doesn't notice anything really promising that looks like it's a breakthrough, but it's good that they're finally starting to put things on paper so they can be more specific, and that's a positive thing. So that's kind of today's reversal headline to it. The United States has been like, oh no, they're doing this and they're escalating, and depending on what news site you read, what they're saying is they've increased shelling, but that's also a common way to pull back troops. Is kind of like a scorched earth as you pull away. So they said, it looks like it's intensifying, but in reality, when you pull away, you intensify shelling to like kind of cover your retreat. My friends are like, no, that's not uncommon. Everybody does that. That's just standard practice. So again, it depends on who you read, but the war's not over. That's the one thing that we do know right now. And the one thing that we did see from, it's not in this one, but basically the Ukraine has said, we're going to send it to referendum to vote when Russia pulls back until the February. And it was the February 24th line. Now they're saying the February 23rd line. I don't know. Again, I think the big question that is going to be is, does that include the two separatist regions or not? And again, I think I highly doubt Russia will just pull all their troops completely out of the country so they could vote on it to where it could be shot down and have to send all the troops back in again. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be there. They did agree, though, and again, this was a headline I saw earlier this morning. They did agree to revisit Crimea in 15 years. So for right now,
Huh.
Russia will have that for at least the next 15 years. And I don't know, maybe their thinking is Putin is old enough that in 15 years he's
He'll
probably
be
not going to be
gone.
around. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But for 15 years, that they'll revisit that in 15 years. So that's already that's already giving up some of that Ukrainian territory. So a lot can happen in 15 years. But this morning, again, some of these headlines are big and important that we talked about. Again, as you mentioned, gold, oil is all the way back up to where the retracement was. When you look at oil, you can see that yesterday it was it's going to be fixed, and then the reality
Yeah.
was no. And
No.
again, parabolic retracement, guys. Parabolic moves straight down based off of a headline, and the reality is 24 hours later, we're back up to exactly where we started. Very, very easy trade. I mentioned yesterday about a whole bunch of knockouts got broken out. Look for a reversal. Again, this is quite a large move. I mean, at its low, we got down to 98.50, and we're now over 107. So huge movement there. Pretty easy call on that. But the natural gas situation was the interesting one. So there has been some headlines for that this morning. If you remember yesterday, we talked about how this is kind of a big deal. People are going to be like, yeah, whatever. The G7 voted and said, actually, we'll start with this one. The G7 voted and said, no, we're not going to pay in rubles. And it's kind of like, that's nice that you're going to say that. But at the end of the day, you don't really control that. Germany's response this morning is now they're declaring an early warning that they should, that they soon will be facing natural gas emergencies in Europe as they prepare for a full supply disruption from Russia. Now, at the same time, Russia does like that money in. Russia has come back and said, hey, listen, we're not going to be complete jerks about this. We know that you can't do it immediately. It's not going to be an immediate switch, but we are promising gradual change to make sure that you guys have the ability to kind of adjust with it. I don't think they're going back on it. I think they're going to go there. And a large player in the market, the Vatican, transferred 100 million euros to buy rubles from the Central Bank of Russia to pay for gas. So the Vatican itself is already starting to acquire natural gas, or basically just gas in general from Russia, and is already starting to play by their book. So it's another country that says, ruble, great, we'll do it. No, not necessarily a country, but I mean, I guess
Yeah. Well,
in reality,
it's
the Vatican
a
is kind of
sovereign
its own country.
territory. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they have more money than most, a lot of the smaller European nations. So it is a big deal. But again, now India's already said that they're going to do it. China's already said they're going to do it. The Vatican just transferred 10 million euros to do it. Germany is now putting wordings up like, we're probably going to have a gas shortage because we said we're not going to. We don't know where it's going to come from. But Russia says, no, we'll work with you. We're not
Yeah.
jerks. We'll gradually put it across. You're going to need it. Your people will demand that they need to have gas. So
And
again,
and with
that's a
that,
very
nat gas did bottom out and is starting. I mean, it was kind of crazy that nat gas was getting hammered. Um, now it's
yeah.
climbing. It's going to start climbing its way out.
Yeah, and, as it should. I mean, there's a couple things that are out there again seasonally. It's still super cold right now outside. Again, we're starting to see the effects of that slowing down. But as we start to hear more about this, and again, they're giving early warning signs of natural gas as a supply shortages.
And
And it's
yeah,
not so much, yeah, and it's not that we don't have the supply; it's that they don't want to pay rubles for it. So really, at the end of the day, that's on them. And if Russia has to sell it to other countries for cheaper, Russia will do that as well. So, I mean, it's a very risky game that Germany's playing, or even all the G7 nations are playing, because if
well,
they say no and Russia signs contracts with other countries that are willing to pay it, that means that supply is not coming back
yeah.
to Germany. They've literally cut that and broken that bridge.
That's
So,
assuming they could find somebody to take all that supply and pay in rubles.
well, I mean,
So
India just said they're going to do it. China said they're going to do it, and the Vatican just transferred 10 million euros. So to say that no one will is
no,
you're
people will.
living a pipe
I
dream
just
there. So
so
no, they will. It's if you can't afford gas, but you could get it in rubles, you're going to do it. That's just what the people are going to demand. So I mean, that's
yeah.
that's capitalism. So, but besides that, today obviously the ADP number came in. It came in right around expected. There was adjustment last time, so it's great that that wasn't a miss and it wasn't a red green number. That's overall good, but. Again, see, yesterday everything was dominated by the Ukraine and peace. Right now, and actually, there's one down here. What does it say? Russia transferring forces to northern Ukraine. No, not really. So, but basically, because of that, the war's not over. We've seen the VIX take a little bit of a spike again. It's not
Yep.
super high. Yesterday, I was actually very surprised. When I was doing the session yesterday, I was really surprised we didn't see more of a drop. You would think with all that talk about peace, both sides are agreeing, we're going to go to the next step. This is good. The
Yeah.
VIX didn't really continue to drop. It held. And again, a lot of it was talk. So the market kind of didn't believe that really anything was going to happen. And because of it today, we're kind of seeing it rise up again. So again, declaring emergencies, is it going to skyrocket all the way back up into the 22s? Most likely not. It really depends on kind of how the U.S. trader takes the overnight news. But for the most part, it looks like it's going to kind of stabilize. I mean, they're not stopping talks, but they are. There is some positive comments coming out of it. But because it is higher by 3%, you're seeing all the indices down. Now, the dollar is taking a bit of a pause, too. The dollar was obviously lower from yesterday. But as you can see, ES kind of got a top in here, right? We're kind of seeing something. And if you look down at this one and start kind of forecasting what we're looking to look at in the future, you can see there just happens to be a whole lot of basing and a nice little pop, which just when we go from bottom to top, just happens to be around the 50%. So I would say for today, and anytime if we have this continued downward pressure, I would say that's probably going to be one of my big targets as far as where this could go to is that 45.70 number. Um, on top of this, one of the things that I mentioned yesterday that people weren't talking about was the interest rate scenario. That it's great that peace is here, but that was the excuse they had to not raise interest rates at all. Citi came out with something last night that said they're
Yeah.
expecting, and their prediction is not 1.5, but the next 4 raises are going to be 0.5. It's like, whoa,
You're gonna have to do something
0.5
about inflation.
4
It's coming.
times? Yeah, and then a couple other people in the article, agreed that the next 2 or 3 are going to be 0.5. I don't think the market's ready for 4.5s in a row. Would it work? Yeah, it absolutely would. Would they need to do 7 of them? Maybe not. Would it actually help start fixing the inflation situation? It would, but I don't think the market has factored in 0.5 the next 4 raises. The next 4 raises. 4 meetings in a row. So that could be some big move. That could lead to some big down draws very, very fast once they get out there. And Citi is a big group. I mean, it's not like Citi's a bunch of guys sitting in their garage. So,
And well, we've also heard this, from J.P. Morgan. I mean, we've
Yeah.
heard it. You're hearing it everywhere. That
Yeah.
it's gonna have to be done. So it's not
Except
like
the
it's
Fed. Yeah, except the
yeah,
Fed.
except for the
0.5 still on the table. Yeah. Everybody but the Fed has said it, except Bullard. Bullard has said, yeah, 0.5, it needs to go 0.5.
Yeah.
So, and again, if you do the 0.5 raises the next 4 times, we're above Bullard's target of where he said it needed to be. So it's kind of interesting. But again, we start hearing more about this 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. The market's going to be like, wow, are they seriously going to, we could do this. A lot of this is leading to downward side. I mean, again,
Yep.
we're coming back again. No agreements. 0.5, 4 times in a row. The employment situation looks like it's good. Final GDP that's 0.7 to or 6.9 to 0.7 is not really a big deal. So, but ES today looks like right now, again on a 15-minute, we're seeing some basing here, but we could have a pop all the way down, and then you get all those people saying, "Wow, we're look at this. We're breaking through the the overnight lows." Next real big target again, a tested level. We got a small one right here at 45.82, but this is a pretty decent one, and it coincides with a 50% retracement level
Yeah.
of fibs from low to high. So people are going to look at that one. NQ, a little bit weaker. And again, NQ, we did have a level up there. We talked about it yesterday. This is the one that we talked about, and it literally bounced it, hit it again, and it was pulling back down lower. This was an area that we said, hey, listen, we got it's jumbling back and through. We're kind of sitting there. Actually, it should be this color, right? We got some more movement, and again, we'll pull the fibs all the way up to the top. Let's make sure we're all the way at the top, just so nobody can say we cherry picked it. 50%, and look what we have at the 50%. Large rally in, a lot of basing, right in the overnight.
It's the same
and then all of a
chart.
sudden,
Yeah.
yeah, almost exactly the same. And again, it's on the front side of the 50, not the back side. But again, 2 little hiccups. I would say one, the last time we were down here, we had a nice pop off of it of 15,044, and then a 50%. YM, kind of the same thing. And YM we had drawn from yesterday because we talked about the top. Same idea. Right. And again, if we kind of come through, there could be a base, and that's a break of 34,825. And Russell, kind of the same thing as well. We'll extend this all the way up, bring it over to here, and you can see right around the 50, we actually already had a level marked off. This one's a little, actually, let me put it from, doesn't matter, I'll use that one. You can see that there is a basing level sitting right here below that 50. So again, that front side of the 50, we'd already marked it off. So, Russell's in an interesting area. This was a short yesterday. The short worked out well, and then it bounced. Now it's basing in there. Could we be taking this for another short lower? It's kind of set up that way. So, complete reversal of what we saw yesterday. A lot of spikes
Yep.
up. I would say watch out for traps at the open. And again, with oil continuing to rise, nothing is fixed, and now oil is higher than what we were at this time yesterday. So, again, it was wishful thinking. I hope some of you guys were able to get some of those reversal trades yesterday. And again,
That would be.
natural gas is now also starting to spike up based off of that news. So,
Yep. All right. With that, any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Brian and I are both accessible. Our emails are right there. Please feel free to email us. We are accessible. A lot, just kind of reminding you that tomorrow morning is that PCE number, and that is going to be big. I mean, Brian just went through on all those equities and how everyone's talking about what's the Fed going to do? What's the Fed going to do? Are they going to be moving interest rates? Are we going to go in half-point increments? How many might we be doing? We're going to get a real glimpse at what the situation really looks like for inflation tomorrow morning before we do this, because the PCE, the personal consumption expenditure, is the Fed's preferred measure of inflation. That is what is the consumer having to spend, and so getting that number tomorrow will give us an idea of what's going to force the Fed's hand. Are they going to be able to be wishy-washy like they've been and keep saying, maybe, maybe not. We're going to wait and see. We're going to wait and see. If that number is through the roof as it's been doing, they're going to have no choice. They're simply going to have no choice. They're going to have to raise half increments and faster. So that number tomorrow morning is going to be a significant number. Be aware of that. Just to recap what we're seeing today, yes, yesterday it was wonderful. Hey, the world saved, war's over. And today, no, not so much. Everything
not
retraced.
yet.
Yeah, nope. Oil completely came back and now is actually higher than where it was yesterday before that news came out. Equities did climb. They've retraced some, but they have not completely given up all those gains. But there's other things going on in the economy as well to support the equities market. It's not entirely moving just based solely on the conflict, while oil really is, because it's a supply demand product and there's too much supply and demand is going up. It really does throw a wrench into the system when you're talking about the price of oil as well as natural gas. With that, Brian and I will be back tomorrow morning. If you like what we're doing, give us a like either on Facebook or on YouTube. We do appreciate that. And until then, good luck in the markets, everyone. We'll catch you tomorrow.